What's good, math family? Today's video, we're looking at absolute value equations. I'm going to explain the basic rules so you never get these equations wrong again. Starting this video out, rule number one, absolute value cannot be equal to something that is negative, right? So this first equation we can solve. So now that we have the absolute value by itself, first equation is the same thing. Just drop the brackets. So x minus 2 is equal to 7. We add 2 on both sides to get x is equal to 9. And then the second equation comes from rewriting the first equation, but now making it equal to the negative of that number. So instead of positive 7, now it's negative 7. So when I add 2 on both sides, we know x is going to be equal to negative 5. These are the two possible answers, and we'll get into extraneous solutions later. Now, problem number two, when we look at it, we understand that what? This number is positive, right? So we may be able to solve for this, but the issue is absolute value has to be by itself. Right now, this bracket is not by itself on this side of the equal sign like it is here. So for us to isolate it and get it by itself, we have to add 7 on both sides. So now we have the absolute value of negative 2x plus 8 is equal to 30. A common mistake that students make is they think they can't solve this because what's inside the absolute value, particularly the x is negative. What's inside does not matter. We're talking about what the equation is equal to. Now that it's by itself and it's equal to a positive integer, we'll drop it for the first equation, right? And then we'll go ahead and create the same equation again and just make it equal to negative 30 instead of positive 30. So when I solve this negative one first, we subtract 8 like a regular equation. Negative 2x is equal to negative 38. When I divide by negative 2, I know x is going to be equal to positive 19. Now on the other side, we do the same thing. Subtract 8 on both sides. Negative 2x is equal to 22, right? After I divide by negative 2, I know x is equal to negative 11. Now in this step, we're going to talk about extraneous solutions. So even though we have two answers, sometimes both of them will not satisfy the equation when we plug it back in. So remember, we're plugging it into the original equation, not the equation we manipulated. So what is the original equation? We have the absolute value of negative 2 times negative 11 plus 8 minus 7 is equal to 23. So when I simplify this, we have the absolute value of positive 22 plus 8 minus 7 is equal to 23. We're just trying to see if these two sides of the equation equal each other. So we have the absolute value of 30 minus 7 is equal to 23. Once we take this out the bracket, right, it's just 30, right? It stays positive. 30 minus 7 gives us 23. 23 is equal to 23. This is not an extraneous solution because it does satisfy the equation. Now when I go over to my second answer, x is equal to 19, we're doing the same thing. So you have the absolute value of negative 2 times 19 plus 8 minus 7 is equal to 23, right? We plug it into the original equation. So 2 times negative 19 is negative 38 plus 8, close the absolute value bracket, and we rewrite the rest of the equation. So once we combine this, we have the absolute value of negative 30 minus 7 is equal to 23. So once this comes out now it becomes positive. So we have 30 minus 7 is equal to 23. So now we have 23 is equal to 23. So for this absolute value equation, there are no extraneous solutions because both of the answers are going to satisfy it. Next two problems, family. And if you've liked this video so far, found it helpful, just smash the like button for us. We already know the basic rules, right? We have to get the absolute value by itself, has to be equal to a positive integer. So right now, we're going to add 10 to start this off, right? Because we know we're going to say division later. So we have negative 6 times the absolute value of x minus 15 is now equal to positive 12 once we add 10 on both sides. Absolute value is still not by itself, so we divide by negative 6. Now we have the absolute value of x minus 15 is equal to negative 2. So now the absolute value bracket is by itself. However, it's equal to a negative integer. So we know there is no solution. And if you were to go ahead and solve, I believe your answer is going to be x is equal to, and for our solution set, I think it's 13 and 17. Pause the video, plug them in, and you'll notice that it's not going to be true statements. Now, when we go on to our second example, what they do here is we're going to have an equation with variables on both sides, but we have to properly set the absolute value equation up. So the first equation is the same thing you see here. The absolute value of 3x plus 2 is equal to 4x plus 5. So once we create the first equation, this is what it's going to look like. Now the second equation, there's two ways we could write this, okay? So the first way, we could write it as 3x plus 2 is equal to, and then we could put the opposite of 4x plus 5. Meaning what? We're just going to distribute this negative to what's in the parentheses. Or what we can do is take it a step further and just change the signs of both of these. So these are the same thing, and we'll come back to that towards the end of the video. So now I'm solving, right? So regular equation, minus 3x. We have 2 is equal to x plus 5. We know x is not by itself, so I subtract 5 on both sides. I know negative 3 is equal to x, all right, or x is equal to negative 3. So let's say now we're just checking for extraneous solutions. So I plug it in. So we have the absolute value of 3 times negative 3 plus 2 is equal to 4 times negative 3 plus 5. So once we simplify, we have the absolute value of negative 9 plus 2 is equal to negative 12 plus 5. So we have the absolute value of negative 7 is equal to negative 7. When we simplify, this comes out the absolute value bracket. It's positive, and then this is equal to negative 7. No. So x is equal to 3 will be an extraneous solution because when we plug it in, it does not satisfy the equation. Now in our second example, right, we're going to combine. So I add 4x on both sides, okay? We can move 3 on the other side as long as we do the correct steps. So once I do that now, we have 7x plus 2 is equal to negative 5, right? I subtract 2, so now we have 7x is equal to negative 7. And after I divide by 7, I know x is equal to negative 1. Now let's say we go ahead to check it, right? So we have the absolute value of 3 times negative 1 plus 2 is equal to 4 times negative 1 plus 5. We simplify this to get the absolute value of negative 3 plus 2 is equal to negative 4 plus 5. Now once I simplify this is the absolute value of negative 1. Once we take it out the bracket, this is just equal to 1. We go on the other side, negative 4 plus 5 is 1. Once we bring it back down, we know 1 is equal to 1. So this is a solution to the absolute value equation, and it will satisfy it. Really hope this video was helpful for you, math family, on absolute value equations, how to solve them based on the basic rules. Smash the like button for us, subscribe to our channel, and leave comments for future videos you guys would like to see on our channel. Or if you had questions from today's video, thank you for joining us.